From Washington, I'm Christopher Cruz. Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi has cancelled a disputed order that gave him many emergency powers. The announcement about the cancellation was made late Saturday in Cairo. But a spokesman for the president said a vote on the disputed proposed constitution will continue as planned for December 15th. The country's leaders are trying to calm political tensions and end deadly violence that has happened during protests around the country. The top UN human rights official, Navi Pillay, says she is concerned about the violence in Egypt and the deaths of people opposed to Egypt's new proposed constitution. She also says she has several concerns about the constitution itself. She believes it weakens many of the human rights and freedoms of the Egyptian people. And she says many parts of it do not follow international human rights laws. The leader of Hamas, Khalid, says he will never give any territory to Israel or recognize the Jewish state. He spoke in the Gaza Strip on Saturday during the 25th anniversary celebration of the creation of Hamas, an Islamist Palestinian militant group that Israel and the West considers terrorists. Mr. Meshal spoke to more than 100,000 people in Gaza City. He said Palestine belongs to the Palestinian people. He said the land will remain Islamic and Arabic from the Mediterranean Sea to the Jordan River. And he said armed resistance is the only way for Palestinians to recover their rights. It was the first trip by the Hamas leader to the Gaza Strip. He entered the area from Egypt. Pakistani President Asif Ali Zardari has visited Malala Yousafzai, the young girl who was shot in the head after she criticized the Pakistani Taliban. She is being cared for at a British hospital. Mr. Zardari met with the girl and her family for about 30 minutes. The President of Afghanistan, Hamid Karzai, says the suicide bombing that wounded his intelligence chief was planned in Pakistan. On Saturday, he said Afghan officials are certain that the bomber who wounded Asadullah Khalid came from Pakistan. Asadullah Khalid is the wounded National Directorate of Security. He said he would speak with Pakistan about the issue, but Mr. Karzai said he did not openly blame the Pakistani government, and he said the attack would not bring an end to talks with Pakistan. You are listening to the news in VOA Special English from Washington. The former president of South Africa, Nelson Mandela, is in a hospital now in Pretoria. President Jacob Zuma's office released a statement that says the 94-year-old former leader went to the hospital on Saturday. The statement says Mr. Mandela is receiving medical tests that are normal for his age, and there is no need to worry. Mr. Mandela has grown weak and has not made a public appearance in several years. He was hospitalized for a short time in February with stomach pains. In Ghana, a second and final day of voting for president and parliament ended. President John Dramani Mahama is in a close race against opposition candidate Nana Akufo-Addo. Officials extended voting into Saturday after some ballot stations had problems on Friday. The ballot counting has now begun. In North Korea, officials are considering changing the launch time of a long-range rocket. The rocket was expected to be launched between December 10th and the 22nd. But now, the official KCNA state news agency says technicians are examining ways to change the launch time. It said a series of problems happened during the process. An American research group said the launch may have been delayed by heavy snow. Representatives of almost 200 countries at the United Nations climate talks have agreed to extend the Kyoto Protocol through 2020. Under the agreement, developed nations promise to reduce greenhouse gases. The agreement was to have ended on December 31st. It was first approved in 1997. The United States, Canada, Japan, New Zealand, and Russia have never signed the agreement. The conference was held in Doha, Qatar. It was to have ended Friday, but it continued into Saturday because delegates could not reach agreement on how to stop climate change and how to pay for it. The UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon welcomed the result of the conference, but his spokesperson said the UN chief believes far more needs to be done. Mr. Ban called on governments, businesses, civil society, and citizens to increase their efforts to slow the rise in world temperature. And finally at this hour, Italy's Prime Minister Mario Monti says he will resign after Parliament approves next year's budget. His office made the announcement Saturday. He said his government did not have enough support in Parliament after the political party of former Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi left the ruling coalition. Mr. Monti became Prime Minister after Mr. Berlusconi resigned in November 2011. Mr. Berlusconi had been pressured by international financial markets to leave office because Italy was close to economic failure. Mr. Berlusconi was later found guilty of tax fraud and faced accusations of sexual abuse. On Saturday, he said he will again seek to become Italy's Prime Minister.